Oh, hey, friends, Dr. Devin here. Let's get into this week's love letter. I got to go backwards a little bit before we go forwards. I got to share a bit about the journey that brought us here to this moment together. And it's in the rewind. So, you know what they say that hindsight is 2020. And so let's start there, right? Let's look back just a bit at the world and how much life has changed since 2020 and how much we have all been through over the last 5 or 6 years. It's really remarkable. And there has been a massive awakening and an indescribable, really, transformation happening at all levels. It doesn't take a genius to reflect back and make a list of everything humanity has gone through. And then you take the individual trials, challenges, upgrades, victories, valleys that we've all been through over these last 5 or 6 years. And literally, we have just been changed at every level. And I believe that's a preparation for something that's coming. There's a new era coming in. And what I think is important to realize, and what I realized in a somewhat painful journey last year, was that the awakening, this new era, means that the old blueprints don't work anymore. And if we do what we have always done, we are going to keep getting what we have always gotten. And as this week we see things about Epstein files, and as different government issues and riots are breaking out. And I mean, pick a level of media or healthcare or government, any institution or major matrix in the world that we know it, at least here in the United States, is going through it. I mean, we are in the thick of things and it's not working. And if we default to the same systems and blueprints, we're just going to keep remaking all the same problems, right? And people, we at our core, we at the heart of it all, we want something new, which means that in order to change the world, in order to heal the world, we're going to have to change ourselves, right? And I think we grew up feeling like we had to do the right thing or follow the path or check the boxes. Um, but the instructions for the way forward haven't been written. I believe we're the generation, the waymakers, the shapeshifters, we're the rebels who were brought to this time, right? The book of Esther, one of my favorite verses, that we are born for such a time as this. I believe that. And I get goosebumps every time I say it. And how that's played out in my life, to go backwards, like I was saying, is that typically we go through these little nudges, and the body will whisper before it's a shout. And I had a bit of a I had a bit of a incident in October of 2024 that invited me in one of those shout moments where I feel like I had heard whispers, right? I had heard little nudges from spirit, from God, saying, "Hey, let's go this way." And I was frustrated with the way certain things were going in my life or business, and I could feel these changes that I wanted to bring forward, but I didn't know how. And in October of 2024, I went out for a run, and the day was beautiful, and I'm listening to this music and I'm charging up, and I'm literally having these thoughts, right? Like I need to try harder, was really the tone that I was in that day. And I'm running, and this car's coming, and they didn't see me. So I got over to the side of the road. Well, when I did, there was a divot. I broke my foot. I tried to walk it off, you guys. Almost collapsed, had to call my husband to pick me up. And for months after imaging and looking for what was wrong, I just tried to walk it off. I was being stubborn. I was pushing through. I just kept trying to get my life back on track, right? And God is sitting there going, "What is she going to get this message? Is she going to take this invitation that maybe I'm literally trying to knock her off that trajectory?" And so finally, after bumping my head against the wall for months, I decided to have surgery, and I softened, and I started to listen instead of push against this resistance, and go, okay, maybe there's something here that I don't see. And maybe I can receive this amazing help from my brother and sister who I had the gift of getting to serve and practice with. They're there. The people are covered. The team is covered. Like maybe I needed to receive. Maybe I needed to stop hustling. Maybe I needed to just get still and heal my own body and listen to what God was trying to tell me. And so here I am, knocked off that path, and finally in that quiet, it didn't even take long. When I calmed my breath. And in the healing time of that surgery, which, the story would evolve that that surgery was successful in some ways and not in others. The recovery was months long, but I remember being laid up from the surgery and praying, and I could hear God. And I had this vision, guys, that I was going to buy a church. And I told my team, I told my husband, I told my realtor, who all in some ways I think thought I was crazy. But in that tension point where I surrendered and started asking God different questions. What are you trying to show me? How is this happening for me? Because I didn't believe that that was an accident. I didn't believe that broken foot, that pain. Too many things had to happen in that exact moment for me to fall. And it was like, maybe the universe is organizing itself for me. Maybe there's something really beautiful. And so I started asking those questions to God and into my own body. I don't know if you guys, muscle test. Please drop in the comments if you would ever want me to do a podcast or one of these letters about muscle testing. If you don't, my goodness, I invite you to try it out. But you can ask your body, show me yes, show me no. There are ways to tap into, if everything is frequency and tone, there are ways to ask for answers and guidance, and it's there all the time. And we come from a culture and a time where everything's in force and control. But God, I believe this whole thing since 2020, this divine blessing that has been painful, I'm sure, for all of us in different ways, but is God bringing us back home? It's inviting us to do things a different way. It's bringing light to all the dark places at every level in our culture. And I want to ask different questions on little and big levels, right? And instead of, you know, um, trying to force our will, maybe we say, like, is it aligned? Is this happening for my good? Is this directing me in a different answer, in a different way? Because when I started allowing that to happen, as fate would have it, guess what I found? A church. Guess what I've spent the last 5 or 6 months demoing and renovating with my family? A church. We are restoring this beautiful A-frame church into a healing space, a house of light, of love, of hope, of healing, of connection. It never would have happened in 100 years. I had been looking for 5 years, you guys, for a place to move my chiropractic office to, and I'd felt it. I was impatient. I was pushing my will. I thought I knew what I wanted, what it was going to look like. And if I wouldn't have gotten hurt, if I wouldn't have been knocked off my path, if I wouldn't have had my life railroaded, I would have kept walking the same path, but here we are, right? And in those moments of asking God in prayer and tuning more into muscle testing and listening in a more feminine way to lead my own life, my family, and just breathing more, right? I stopped asking for external validation. I stopped asking for permission. I stopped looking for coaches or mentors who were going to tell me the way that was right for me, because it couldn't come from the outside. I knew that it had to come from the inside. And there were things that didn't make logical sense and there was no clear path, but I knew. Have you ever had that feeling that it's there? There's a compass, you guys, in your heart, in your soul. It's there. And in the quiet times of meditation, in a workout, in a walk, in a jog, he's always there in the sunshine, waiting for you to take a second from your life and from your current path and look up and listen for a second, right? Because I think this era that I was talking about is all about co-creation. It's time to color outside the lines. It's time to leave the last chapter. And if you've heard, and maybe I'll add a little bit of this in next week's, about, because we're coming up on this Chinese New Year, and I don't know if you've seen a little bit about this turn of the year of the snake to the year of the fire horse, and there's a lot of shedding and triggers and things happening, but it's time. And what we don't change, we choose, right? And it took me months. This is a full circle year for me, getting ready to open this church that was a figment of my imagination. It was just somewhere in my mind's eye. But the dream of it, the possibility of it was enough. And I just stayed anchored to that joy, to that possibility. And I kept believing that the universe was going to deliver, that God was going to move the pieces and clear the way. And here it comes, the magic, the healing space, this gathering space that I cannot wait to invite families and friends to be a part of. I wouldn't have ever found it with my head down. I wouldn't have ever found it walking that same walk. And so the big idea of this week's love letter is to loosen your grip on control. God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Because faith is not passive. It's it's very active. It requires your participation, and God will bring you miracles. You bet. You bet. And you're going to have to walk the walk. And the path sometimes only reveals itself as you take the first brave step into the pitch black, without a map, because your compass is on the inside, because true north is always going to be true north, right? And I say it's time. Let's go. Let's go. And if I go and you go and we all start coloring just a bit outside the lines, or radically start to upgrade wherever we've been settling, wherever we've been hiding, we can look back at everything that's happened since 2020. What are we waiting on? If we only get one life, what are we waiting on? And so ask yourself, where am I forcing things? What is my body trying to tell me? What is life trying to tell me? Where is there resistance? Where could it be guiding me away from something or to something? What's the question you're afraid to ask, right? When I talk about the unknown, what's it bring up for you? Are you afraid? Are you hesitating? Do you know? Do you feel one of these urges that life wants to play with you, that something new needs to be birthed by you? What if you don't write that book? What if you don't sing that song? The world needs you to be you. And we were born for such a time as this. It's time to listen inward. It's time to trust what you feel and go where you are called. It's time, guys. We are the Renaissance. We are the rebels. Mm. I'm cheering for you. I believe in you. And if you know somebody that's in a season of shakeup and breakup, please share this with them, because sometimes the crumbling, the death is the necessary right before the rebirth, right before the breakthrough. It's right on the other side of a broken ankle, of life getting all messed up, of things in a big way not going the way that you thought they were going to go. What better is coming? I'll see you next week.